Alright guys, so in this video we're going to go ahead and go over homework number 4. So for homework number 4, question 1, we made a line rock generator. So a line rock generator is a 5-line poem with a specific rhyme pattern, A, A, B, B, A. That means that lines 1, 2, and 5 all rhyme with each other. So to make this work in code, I started by setting up some word arrays like articles, nouns, verbs, propositions, and 2 separate rhyme word lists, one for the A rhyme and one for the B rhyme. Then I created a function called generate sentence. It takes in a noun, verb, preposition, article, and a rhyme word. It puts those together into a sentence and capitalizes the first letter using UC first, enclosed in parentheses. Next, I use PHP's arrays random function to randomly select word from each array. I called the generate sentence function 5 times, one for each line of the limerick. Lines 1, 2, and 5 use rhyme group A, and lines 3 and 4 use rhyme group B to match the AABBA pattern. So here's what that looks like. Called it 5 times, and then here's the finished product. Alright, for question number 2, this was a fun one. This is a Pig Latin translator. So for this assignment, we had to take a sentence from the user and convert each word into Pig Latin. The rule is take the first letter of each word, move it to the end, and add a. For example, dog becomes ogde, and the becomes hete. I started off by creating a HTML5 form that lets the user type a sentence and hit submit. That part is handled inside the form tag. I use method equals post in quotation marks so that the data could be processed by PHP when the user submits it. In the PHP section, I use session underscore start and closing parentheses to keep a running log of all the translated sentences. That way, each time the user submits a new sentence, it gets added to the text area instead of replacing what was already there. I created a function called print Latin word, which takes a single word, grabs the first letter using sub-str, then reassembles the word when the letter moved to the end and adds a. Then I take the sentence input, split it into individual words using explode, and loop through each word for each one. I call print Latin word as long as it's 2 or more letters. Tiny words just get passed through as is. So this is what the code looks like here. And so if we enter in a sentence, I was playing around with hello world, but let's enter in I like cars, translate. This is what it looks like. Since this is just one letter, it goes ahead and passes as if, but the other ones go ahead and get translated. So for question number 3, I had to write a script that takes in a line of text, splits it into 2 words, and then outputs those words in reverse order. I created a simple HTML form so the user can type a sentence and click a button to submit it. Once the form is submitted, PHP handles the logic. I use explode, parentheses, quotations, dollar input, and then close the parentheses to split the sentence, basically parse it into an array of words based on spaces. Then I use the array reverse method to reverse the word order and implode reverse to stitch the words back together into a new sentence. Finally, the reverse sentence is displayed inside a text area for the user to see. It's quick, simple, and effective. So here's what that looks like. I'll put in I'm a little hungry. Where's the words? Hungry little I am. Perfect. So for question number 4, I created a script that takes several lines of text from the user and counts how often each letter of the alphabet appears. First, I created a text area where the user can enter multiple lines of text. When the form is submitted, the PHP code takes over. I use str to lower and close parentheses to convert the entire input to lowercase so that A and A count as the same. So uppercase A and lowercase a counts as the same thing. It doesn't count it as 2 separate things. And then I created an array from A to Z using range and close parentheses to set up an initial count of 0 for each letter using array fill keys. Then I loop through each of the characters in the input string, if it's a letter, using ctype underscore alpha close parentheses to increase the count of that letter. So here's what that looks like. So we're going to enter multiple lines of text. So we're going to enter in I like ice cream. Oh my goodness. It's really hot outside. I like iPhones. Count letters. Counts how many A's, B's, C's, D's, and E's, and even if like the letter repeats lowercase or uppercase, it doesn't count it as more than one letter. Alright, for question number 5 in this program, we had to let the user pick a date using an HTML5 form and then display the date in a bunch of different formats using PHP. Use an input type equals date, so the user could easily choose a date from a calendar. That way they could either put it in manually or format the date themselves. When the form is submitted, PHP grabs the selected date using $post date and creates a datetime object with a date create in closing parentheses. I then used a date underscore format to format that date in a few different ways. For example, fj, y gives us something like August 1st, 2025. And then YMD gives us the year first, the month, and then the date. So here's what that looks like. If I go click the little calendar thing, we're going to do January 2030, we're going to do December. Alright, so December 2034, the 30th, format the date. So it's format 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In every single way I thought of. Alright, so for question number 6, the input string is Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, Massachusetts, Kansas. I first split that into an array using explode, then $states. Then I loop through each state and use built-in PHP functions to match the conditions from the problem. So here's what that looks like. So for question number 7, this is just a simple email validator where we validate emails addressing using PHP. So I built a simple HTML form where the user can enter in an email address. When they hit submit, the PHP code takes that input and uses a regular expression to check if it follows a valid email pattern. So the pattern I use looks for characters before and after the @ symbol, and it also checks for a period, followed by more characters, like an example at gmail.com. It'll look for something like that. If the email matches the pattern using preg underscore match, I displayed a green message saying the email is valid. If not, I show a red error saying the message is invalid. So here's the code for that. See, I just used a simple if statement and then with the preg underscore match pattern in email. So I enter an email like mine, validate mine, but if I go ahead and enter g-.com, that's not a valid email address. So for question number 8, this PHP and HTML script creates a simple web page that allows a user to submit a URL and a description, which are then stored in a MySQL database. At the top, there's an HTML form with 2 input fields, one for the URL and one for the description, along with a submit button labeled add to database. When the form is submitted using the post method, the PHP script checks if both fields are filled out. If they are, it connects it to a MySQL database called URL using the username root and the password 6 ones, just like we talked about in class. It then uses MySQL I underscore real underscore escape underscore string to safely process the submitted URL and description, preventing any SQL injection. The sanitized data is inserted into a table named URL table with an SQL insert statement. After that, the script opens a new connection to the same database, though this step is technically unnecessary, but we still did anyways, and it runs select query to fetch all entries from the URL table. So if we go to Facial Marketplace real quick, which is just a bunch of cars and watches on here, we'll copy this, put the URL in, description, we'll put Facebook Marketplace, add to the database. it'll save the URL with your description with it. And here's just the Sunia website.